Well, today is a first. I am getting to speak with an absolutely magnificent soul who has had one of the most extraordinary transformations I have ever read about. And this week's guest is Candy Hough. Candy is a two-time #1 Amazon international best-selling author, and she's the host of Angel Healing House Radio and TV. She's a Reiki master, a teacher, and an inspirational speaker. Candy helps others connect to their divine, eternal natures. Following her angelic walk-in experience in January 2003, she established her business, Angel Healing House. After creating a spiritual community in Queensland, Australia, she moved to Los Angeles in 2010. She's an enthusiastic, passionate, and joyful woman who helps people live authentic lives while manifesting their dreams. She has several books. The one that I just read that kept me up, I couldn't put it down, was I'm an Angelic Walk-In, the autobiography of Angel Ariel, which we're going to be talking about today. And it's her journey. And then also the sequel to One True Home, another one of her best-selling books. Clare Candy's weekly international Angel Healing House radio program is broadcast in over 120 countries, and she's available on Facebook Live and Transformation Talk Radio. Candy, how are you today, lady?
I'm very well. Every day is extraordinary, and every day is a gift, Mal.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I feel that way too. I thought that I understood the concept of why we come here and how our soul has a plan for us about personal growth and expansion. But after reading your book and for the very first time learning about the concept of a walk-in, my whole idea of what that was about has completely changed. So, I mean, first of all, I think we need to explain to the audience, what is a walk-in?
Yes, many people are unfamiliar with that term. A walk-in happens as a result of a person on the earth plane, a soul on the earth plane in human form, who, because of traumatic experiences and suffering, they unconsciously, this is not something they think of consciously, but unconsciously, they ask to be released from the physical, from the contract that they wrote before they came into physical existence, because everyone writes a contract in their book of life for their incarnation, and they ask to be released from the trauma and the suffering, because they lose their life force. They lose their life force, and it could be emotional, and it could be physical. In the case of the former soul of Clare Candy, who was in the body, she was with her abusive ex for 26 years, 22 of those married. And through the mental and emotional abuse, she just lost her light. She forgot who she was. And she was actually a dearth of light. And it was so important, Mal, in the last 30 plus years, with the raising of the consciousness on the planet, for each person to be of their optimum radiant light, to hold the light for the planet so it could shift and ascend. And she was really a dearth of light. So we on the other side, angels, spirit guides, we don't like to see people suffering interminably, although we know our best lessons come in adversity and hardship. But if it goes on for a long time, we don't want somebody to suffer. And I came to her and I said, look, please don't suicide again. She had tried to kill herself twice. And I said, instead of getting rid of the body, you can go up to God with honors and stop the suffering and pain. If you allow me to walk in, when you walk out, your soul walks out, and I will take over your responsibilities. This is not just for another soul to come in and have another walk around the planet and have fun in a physical body. This is to clean up the former soul's life, take on their responsibilities, because we get their memory imprint, but we don't get their emotional imprint, which often stops them from solving insurmountable problems. And then once this is done, then you decide on an intersection episode. And ours was in a very deep meditation, where she'd only started meditating 6 weeks before. And she closed her eyes, and 5 hours later, my eyes opened. You don't know it at the time that you've had this walk-in experience, but you know that you're living the wrong life, as everything is changed, because you come in with your own personality, you come in with your own perceptions, your own attitudes, and everything about that life has been formed by the low frequency energy and the negativity held within that former person. So the first thing that I did was that I divorced my life from the business I was in with the deceitful partner, and the relationship I was in, the hell home I was living in, this horrible house which you've read about, that I allowed myself, the former soul allowed herself to be in. And so, and then I went on to clean up the body and start this new life. It wasn't until about 3 months afterwards that a spiritual teacher, a psychic, and also a spiritual healer, and then many others affirmed to me that what I had had was a walk-in experience. I changed my life, and then because I changed my life and started living heaven on earth, then I helped others to live heaven on earth, and I got on with my mission, if you want to say, to help humanity on the planet. And walk-ins, they have certain characteristics which are endemic to many walk-ins. Walk-ins, because they come in with their own attitudes and their personalities. A lot of times they change their name. The former soul, Clare Candy, she hated the name Clare. She just, if anybody called her Clare, she would say, "Please don't call me that." And when the clairvoyance and the clairsentience and the clairaudient, all the claircognizant, all the Claires came in, I embraced the name Clare Candy. And I have lots of people calling me Clare and Candy. I answer to both. Many times walk-ins will leave long-standing partners. They just don't resonate with them anymore, because this is what the former soul picked as their romantic partner, because they shared the same vibrational frequency or came from their soul group. Many times they will switch professions. They'll go into the healing arts. They'll go into being spiritual teachers, alternative therapies, tarot readers, different things like that. They are remembering what they did in former incarnations, and that comes back to them. A great many times they will start to remember their former incarnations, because they're so clear. One of the things I write about in the prequel to I Am an Angelic Walk-In, in this book, One True Home Behind the Veil of Forgetfulness, is that I was a healer in 14th century Scotland, and I started to weep when I heard Celtic and Irish and Scottish music, and I had no idea where that was coming from. The former soul was a good Jewish girl in this body. She didn't know from Scottish and Celtic music, and so there's a bit of a checklist, which some people might experience a few of them. Maybe somebody experiences all 10 of those. Each walk-in is individualized, and each walk-in is very different. But when this happens, it is life-altering. It is 180 degree. And those walk-ins, which I say, which are on their game, which they know where they're from, and they know why they've come back, and they're true to their mission, They have a great impact on humanity for helping others to find their light as well.
How did you find the former Clare? How did you connect?
Oh, the reason we connected was because in this book you'll understand why I had gone from Ariel to then being Angel Ariel. I had learned from my 5 most important past lives. I had transcended the birth and death wheel, and then where I am an angelic walk-in, the autobiography of Angel Ariel, where that starts, is I didn't have to come back in human incarnation, but I had a spiritual school across the veil.
Mhm.
And thousands of souls would come in and listen and learn spiritual law, I guess, or especially they wanted to know why things happened in their incarnation from a higher or an angel's perspective. And so it was in my spiritual school that the former soul of Clare Candy, she was a very young soul. She had not had a physical incarnation before, because many souls are too afraid to choose a physical incarnation. You know, across the veil, we have love. There is only love. And then you come into a world where, the world of duality, which, sometimes it's so hard to find love. And who would want to come in and when you have that wholeness and that feeling of complete bliss on the other side? So anyway, she was one of my students, and I would tell them stories of when I was a courtesan in Venice and when I was a Scottish healer in Scotland, an Egyptian princess, a member of the Lakota tribe, and also a captured African-American slave brought across the horrific Middle Passage and worked the tobacco fields. And she was so engrossed in learning about my physical incarnations that she got inspired to go to the Etheric Council and ask them if she could have her first physical incarnation. And so when she came in and when she was born and she was living a physical life, I was her guardian angel.
Oh.
And so I watched this beautiful, absolutely beautiful girl, inside and out, to deteriorate because she lost her light and she allowed herself to be abused and used by so many people over and over again. And it was just so horrific. I knew that the 3rd suicide attempt was going to be the winner. And I went to the Etheric Council and I said to them, what can I do for her? And it was they who suggested that they knew I didn't want to come back in physical form again, but they said it's twofold. You can help her, release her from the trauma and the suffering. Not only that, you can help the world ascend, which was so important ever since the harmonic convergence of 1987, when we had a tipping point and there were enough people on the planet that decided that we were going to hold the light and raise the consciousness of the planet. So that's how I met the former soul.
Does every single person that chooses, every single soul that chooses to come here to incarnate, do they have the opportunity for a walk-in? Does everyone have that opportunity? Or is it that you have to be at a place of such pain, despair, loss, and as you beautifully expressed, such a diminished light that your life force is basically gone? Do you have to get to that level before you get a walk-in experience?
Yes. Because if you are conscious enough, I've had lots of people email me and say, could you please just get me out of this physical body? It's too hard for me. And I said, if you are conscious enough to ask for a walk-in experience, then you won't get one, because you're conscious, you have enough spiritual a remembrance of spiritual law and wisdom, that you can persevere. These are for those people, and you can't ask consciously, but it's that unconscious higher self of yours saying, please get me out of my contract early. So and many of the times they're flying their plane in the fog. They just cannot see and aware enough to look up and see the light. But you can't ask for this consciously. Some people say, I've lost my money, I'm divorced, I'm this and that, just get me out of here. And quite frankly, the most beautiful, extraordinary lives now are the ones with the most challenges, ones with the most hardship and the most adversity. Because when we cross over and we stand before the etheric council, they've got our book of life, they go to our contract, we are going to be most proud of the things that we triumphed over. Not that we had lots of money, fame, success, none of that is going to matter. It's that we tried, we persevered, and we triumphed. And because we're here for our soul's growth, we're not here for an easy ride.
Right.
We're here for our soul's growth. And it's like the challenges that an oyster goes through when the grit gets in, and the grit irritates the oyster, and that becomes a pearl. Okay, so we're here for our soul's growth, our expansion, and the experience. Yes, you can go through an easy life, but you'll get on the other side and you'll say, what was the point of that? What was the point of that? So it's through our deep challenges and our adversities and those hardships that really create the pearl in us.
What I find fascinating is that you have a recollection of the previous incarnation of Clare, Candy, and yet you don't feel any of the emotional trauma, pain, sadness that she experienced, but yet you know everything that she went through.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
that's something endemic to walk-ins, because it's like the computer chip is the mental imprint. I can bring forth data, and I can bring forth images and everything. It's like a camera, or it's a computer chip that she had, but the emotional imprint gets wiped, because if we came in with the emotional imprint, it would stop us from solving the former soul's insurmountable problems. Things that they just couldn't get past because of anger, sadness, bitterness, resentment, regret. Most walk-ins, most walk-outs, or those former souls, they can't find the light because they're too busy focusing on anger, sadness, bitterness, resentment, regret, judgment, criticism, not forgiving, not taking responsibility. All of those are pointing them towards the past and not seeing the glory of the present moment.
Why do walk-ins want to come here if I'm getting the feeling that a walk-in is already an expanded soul? So why do they want to come back here and step in and potentially live in the duality of living in this classroom we call Earth, where they could stay where they are in complete love? Why do they choose to come back? Is it because they want to be that in service that much?
Well, I can tell you that not all walk-ins are angelic in nature like myself. I am Angel Ariel. Um, For me, being of service, I will to will God's will. There is nothing higher. In fact, I'm in a twin flame relationship, which is the divine masculine, my husband Pete, myself, the divine feminine. And we know that what's guiding this is the triad with God at the top. There is nothing more important than to be of divine service. And so I could have said no, but as an angel, you give up your will to divine will. There is nothing of higher service. And so, to come back and serve humanity at this time where the Earth and its inhabitants have never done this before, have never reached this high shift in consciousness to want to live environmentally, to want to live sustainably, to see each other. I am you. I see me in you. You are me. We are one. We're in this together. And so we are the first. It's like a guinea pig experiment. And to be a part of this is extraordinary. So yes, you come back and you wear a funny little meat suit, as I call it, and you when you cut yourself, you bleed and you cry and you have all these experiences, but it's for the highest good. It's for the greatest good of not only myself, but it's the greatest good of humanity as well.
You mentioned that you're now married to your twin flame.
Yes.
So is there a difference between a soulmate and a twin flame?
It's a huge difference. There is only one twin flame. Everyone has a twin flame, okay? But most people do not, up until now, most people have not contracted for their twin flame to be on the earth plane with them, because they can help them better from the other side. Okay, so stop asking for your twin flame, everyone. Stop, because she may not be here at the moment. Why it's your divine complement, and there's none other like that in any space, time, and dimension, is because when you were an ovid, a circular energy on the other side, you were the first perfect balance of that masculine and feminine energy. And when you came into physical existence, and you chose the equipment, whether you're going to be feminine or masculine, then you're always longing to connect with that complement of yours. Okay, and there's only one of this. Now, if you're not in a twin flame relationship, you're in a soulmate relationship. And that just means that this person has come from your soul group because they have the same vibrational frequency as you did. That person might have been your godmother or your grandmother or your mother or your father or your sister or your child in another incarnation, and you choose to be actors in the theater of your life in each one of these incarnations. Okay, so if you're in a soulmate relationship, it usually means that they bring in something, some unfinished business. You come together to create something together or to complete something. And usually what I hear from so many of my clients around the world is that they got so irritated and agitated, their soulmate created such drama that they had to leave them. They didn't understand that they were just reflecting something that was already inside of them, because we can't have that in front of us, which is not ourselves. So you bring that to yourself to be a reflection, to see what you have to work on. And so many men and women just leave relationships and says, I'll show you, and they find another identikit of themselves. And they keep doing this until they understand to turn the mirror back on themselves and say, well, why did I draw this to myself? And that's why so many soulmates have electricity, and you feel drawn to them, even though they might be abusive, even though they might be deleterious to your health, and emotionally or physically, but you feel like you have to stay because they are part of your soul group and they are there to teach you something.
Wow.
But twin flames, listen, twin flames can only come together when each one of the parties has transcended all their karma. There's no more triggers. Yeah. There's no more reactions. There's no more, there's no fighting. There's no anything like that, because you've already cleaned that slate, and you've transcended anger, sadness, bitterness, regret, resentment, judgment. You've already forgiven. And so like attracts like. They're like two, I love to say that twin flames are like two parallel trains going down the track side by side. And they're also like two pillars holding up the temple. And they don't collapse onto each other. They don't need each other. They love having each other in each other's life. and they stand strong, independent of one another, except they're together, and they let the winds of heaven dance between the two of them.
Oh, the winds of heaven dance between the two of them. Is that magnificent? Wow. So we all have a twin flame, but we just
Yes,
may not meet our twin flame while we're on this earth.
correct.
We could potentially meet them on the other side of the veil.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I've met so many people that saying, "Oh, I want my twin flame." I said, "You don't even know if they're here with you in this incarnation. So stop asking for them. Instead, saying thank you for my beloved relationship." And then instead of looking for it, you turn the mirror back on yourself and you become that which you are looking for, because like attracts like. And then, like a beacon, you will draw to yourself. If you want to find love, be love. If you want to find compassion, be compassion, kindness, whatever that is. You be it first, and then you go on to serve others with it, and it will naturally be drawn to you.
I think that is the most beautiful tip that women could hear today. It is something that I've been trying to teach for several years to women whose hearts have been broken, that you have to love yourself first. You have to be love in order to attract it. You can't give away something you don't have.
Exactly. You're a beautiful vessel, and unless you fill that first, then when you go to give, that's why so many women, when they go to give, it hurts, because they've given to their spouses, they've given to their children, they've given to their community, they've baked the cake for the PTA, they've given to the shelters, whatever that is, but they haven't nourished and nurtured this heart of theirs. And when that's empty and you go to give, it hurts, because there's nothing to pull from.
And so many women walk in those shoes. They're
Yeah.
so depleted.
Yeah, there's 5 important points which my business, Angel Healing House, is based on. 5 important tenets. And if I could just impart that to your listeners, the most important uh, one of these tenets, I think, is the taking accountability and responsibility for your life. Every person, place, thing, and situation that you have in your life, you drew it to yourself for your highest good and to teach you. And some of our best lessons come in contrast. So if you can take responsibility for what you've created, even though it looks horrific, then you can create something else. So once you take responsibility, the second tenet is forgiveness. Because if you take responsibility, then you don't blame anybody, and then forgiveness comes in. But you don't say, I forgive you, because I forgive you still apportions blame. You say, please forgive me. That's a completely different vibrational frequency, because you're taking it, even if you can't figure out what you might have done wrong, it might have come from a previous incarnation. But please forgive me. This lifts the burden of unforgiveness off your soul, and you get untold peace and untold happiness with this. It's one of the most selfish things that you can do, is to forgive and say, please forgive me. The third is non-judgment. As hard as this is, allow people to walk their path, because you don't know what their soul needs. And you certainly wouldn't want somebody to judge you. So judge ye not, that ye be judged yourself. The fourth is gratitude and appreciation for our infinite blessings that God has bestowed upon us. And the fifth is unconditional love for others.
Mm.
These are the 5 tenets, and when you follow them, then you start to create that heaven on earth existence that we long for in that one true home state of ours on the other side of the veil.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Claire, Candy, Hough, how how can people reach you?
They can reach me through my website, which is angelhealinghouse.com. And my phone number is 831-277-3716. I am, for this present moment, I am in the beautiful, beautiful state of California in Santa Monica.
My favorite place on the planet. Oh, I love it. Montana Avenue, my favorite little store.
Oh, I
I
love
love
Montana.
to shop. Oh, I love it there. Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
beautiful.
I'll be out there in June, girl. I'll call you and take you to
You make
lunch.
sure. You make sure. There's some beautiful places to lunch
Oh,
on there.
yeah,
You
I
know,
love it.
I'm writing my fifth book about our twin flame adventure from when we met and married, and that is, if there was ever a reason to get this book, I Am an Angelic Walk, in the autobiography of Angel Ariel of me, is the way that Pete and I met. Mal,
Amazing.
there's not one thing exaggerated in that, in the
Right.
magical way that we came together.
Right.
And we know that we have the best of friends. You know, just quickly, I wrote a contract 6 months before I met Pete, and in that contract I said, i I've compromised myself in love, but from now on, this is my beloved, and we are the best of friends. We work together. We travel the world together. Nothing is more important than this relationship. There's no game playing. We allow each other to be who we are, and we are like the two little kids on an adventure. And that's happened from 2004 to today. The miracles, because we've had the faith to step forward when it wasn't logical, when it wasn't rational, when people said you're crazy to do this. We hung on to each other, we followed the voice of God, and then so many miracles have happened. And I'm writing about that at the moment.
Oh, I can't wait because meeting him when I read that part at the end of the book, and it seemed like it was an unlikely match at first.
Yes.
Um, just and then you just cemented your hearts together. It was just beautiful. Oh,
That's us.
wonderful. Oh, I love that. Oh my, I get goosebumps looking at it. Oh, that's fabulous. Wonderful. Now
Yes.
that's angelic to me. That's one.
But, it was funny because in that decree I wrote, I love to be surprised. I love to be surprised, and I love to laugh. I love to laugh. And I said, I, one of the things I wrote is, he makes me laugh and he surprises me. And I got everything,
You,
everything.
you know what you did? You wrote an order for the universe and it delivered big time.
And the reason it delivered big time is because I was clear inside. There
Yeah.
was no more negativity. There was no more blaming. There was no more victimhood. There was no more finding fault. There was just feeling blessed that I am a child of God, as each one of us is. And the universe desires what we desire. And I said, thank you, because I knew it was already, manifested on the etheric plane. And within 6 weeks, and in the book, I speak about, after I wrote the decree, then I went down to the water and I spoke these words and I sent them across the water. I slept with this decree under my pillow every single night. And I used to, when I used to go grocery shopping, I used to say, I didn't know his name, but I said, come with me. I said, let's go buy groceries. I said, we need this and that, because if it's a twin flame, we have similar tastes. And then at night, I would pull the covers over him and say, I love you. I would kiss him on the head. Don't let the bed bugs bite. And within 6 weeks, I felt like he was etherically around me. And then it was 6 months later at that Come As Your Favorite Rock Star party. I went as Stevie Nicks. He went as Elvis. And
Right.
5 days later, he asked to marry me.
I know. I love it. And I mean, but after the first date, he was like, no, you're not the right woman.
Yes, exactly. And
And then 3 dates later, he's proposing. I said, now, if that's not magic, girl, I don't know what.
because that was the logic. That was the logic in his head. This is what I'm looking for, you know. And instead of, he actually wanted to ask me after 3 days, but he waited till 5. So I said, well, what stopped you? He said, because after 3 days, how can you ask someone to marry you? You don't know them. I said, so what was the difference with the 5th day? He said he felt the hand of God on his back. easing him forward and saying, just do it, and everything will fall into place.
Beautiful story. Beautiful.
Yeah. And so we're two best buddies. We're the best of friends, supportive and kind and loving, and we have each other's back, and
Ways.
we know that we are part of this triad, and we are here with Pete. Pete is in the film industry. We're turning my books into movies, and so to get this message out to a wider audience.
Wonderful. This has been so much fun. We've gone way over, but I don't care because it's been one of the best conversations we've had, and I can't thank you enough, Candy, for this beautiful interview. And I absolutely will call you when I'm in California.
You better. You
I will,
better.
girl.
You
I
better.
will. I'm
I also wanted to say that I'm an Angelic Walk-in is also an audio book on
wonderful.
audible.com for those people that like to listen and not read so much.
Beautiful. Thank you again, girl.
You're welcome. Take care of yourself.
Thank
Lots
you.
of love. Bye-bye.
Same to you.